Hello. Thank you for coming along on this cold night. I'd like to start with a song about one of my heroes, a piano player from New Orleans called Dr. John. The song is called Dr. John's Visit to Blair Gowrie. Or if you happen to be Italian, Dr. John il quale ha fatto visita al villaggio di Blair Gowrie.
This next song was written so I could use this smoothie, and but I didn't want to have to learn to play it properly. It takes ages. So I wrote this particular song so I could use it. This one's called Bob Dylan's Visit to Marra. day was young, but the nightingale was older. From the north and south to the west and east, come a hanging judge and a one-eyed priest. From a Buick 6 and Coburn Street, come boots of Spanish leather. Maybe a cold and a rainy night, the wind may blow a ricky flight. Don't think twice now, it's alright, our fire is in your favour. What does the future hold for me? I plant my case at a wishing tree. Will I live long enough to see your head upon my shoulder? I'm electrified with a sight to see, all lit up like a Christmas tree. Zimmerman has done for me, I may as well surrender. I remember yet the day we met, I almost took off a cigarette. Did I mention that I'm burning yet? My fire is in your favour. Thank you very much. The sharp among you will have noticed that both those songs are historically accurate. And the next one is also, I never knew much about Scottish history in general, and Scottish history in particular, because I was educated in Scotland. But eventually, I discovered a man who I regard as my old history teacher, a man from Sussex called John Preble, who wrote very well about Scotland. I'm sure some of you have read his books. I was reading one called The High Girders, and he'd given an account of an occasion in September 1877 when General Ulysses S. Grant came to Dundee. Grant had finished his term as President of America, and he was on a very long European tour. Dundee was the last stop. They say he was not fascinated. Strange, isn't it? Anyway, he was so unfascinated that the only thing anybody could remember that he'd said while he was in Dundee was, "That's a mighty long bridge." So I just kind of juggled the facts around a wee bit and made this song, which is called Surprise, Surprise, General Grant's Visit to Dundee. When U.S. Grant paid a visit to my hometown, they spruced it up with a lick of paint, and they showed him round, and two bands played in fierce competition as the rain fell down, and the general said, "What a mighty long bridge for such a mighty little old town." A man called Walsh hung from a window with the stars and stripes, and the orphan boy sang, sweetness and light, and as they sang, the fire bell rang, and they ran for their lives. What well-trained little orphans, and a precious little song, said the general's wife. Was called to the Magdalen Green before the darkness fell, with a short stop over for the ladies' convenience at the Royal Hotel, and the general frowned through the last of the But what a mighty long bridge to such a mighty little old town. When U.S. Grant paid a visit to my hometown, they spruced it up with a lick of paint, and they showed him round. And two bands played in fierce competition as the rain fell down. Not a pretty little bandstand or a lovely little steeple, or charming little houses or cheerful little people. But what a mighty long bridge to such a mighty little old town. Thank you very much. This next song comes from a show called the Mill Lavies, which we did at Dundee Rep. It was a very successful show. Had the word mill in the title. It was in Dundee. Anyway, I suppose that most of you know that in the jute industry in Dundee, and that was our main industry, the workforce were predominantly women. Produced very strong women in Dundee. But in the Mill Lavies, the story is set in a gents' toilet, and there are only 5 men who work in the jute mill. 2 of them are tenters, or mill mechanics. 2 of them are labourers, and one of them is a man called Rothes, whose job it is to keep the toilet clean. He takes it very seriously and he does it well. He's a conscientious man, unlike some of the other boys that work beside him. So one day a couple of the boys come into the toilet for a smoke, and Rothes asks one of them where North Africa is. And the man says to him, "You don't want to ask too many people that, Rothes, they'll think you're daft." He says, "But I genuinely want to know." The man says, "Well, you must have seen it on the map or the globe or the atlas." He says, "But you know I can't read or write." And so because of that sad fact, the man has to find a way of explaining to him where North Africa is, and he does it with this song. Wee geography lesson for you here. This one's called If Dundee Was Africa. If Dundee was Africa, and Fife was Antarctica, if Arbroath was India, and Perth was Peru, in the darkest of continents, how happy I'd be, 'cause that would mean Aberdeen was deep in the Mediterranean Sea, and Aberdeen would agree that's a no bad place for Aberdeen to be. Zambia, and the Haltoon was Ghana. If Dundee was Africa, the south is where the tide flows to the sea. In the east is the black's craft, in the west is the cinderings, and empty as any fool can see. Take it for me, North Africa's Lochie. Okay. That's where I come from, Lochie. This next song comes from the Channel Islands. I was working down in the island of Guernsey, working as a bass player in a hotel. And while I was there, I met quite a number of people who were outlaws of one type and another. Some of them was just straightforward outlaws, hiding from the law. And some of them were outlaws hiding from their in-laws. And the thing they had in common was they all had a wrong job. They had this job which is called KP, or kitchen porter. And the conditions of employment were very straightforward. You keep your mouth shut, they don't throw you off the island. So I felt for these people. I wrote this blues, it's called the Guernsey Kitchen Porter. Lord above, protect me from my family. Do not let them get in touch with me. For I am bound to be a kitchen porter. Sure is a convenient thing to be. I don't mind the sweating and the screaming. Give me a room 7 foot by 3. For I have urgent business on the mainland. Sure is a convenient place to be. In the evening when my shift is over, I struggle round the eucalyptus tree. It may not be the stairway up to heaven, but it sure is a convenient place to be. Do not give me fare thee well, St. Peter Port. Do not give me Sarnia Sherry. For I have urgent business on the mainland. Sure is a convenient place to be. Long may I smell the eucalyptus, keep those grasping hands across the sea. For I don't wish to face the inconvenience when that urgent business catches up with me. Sure is a convenient place to be. have any football fans in the house tonight? Of course we do. Yes. Oh, there we have a football fan in the house tonight, because we are a civilized society. You don't get all that many good songs about football. I've noticed that over the years. I heard one when I was about 10 years old on a television programme called Nationwide. They had a competition to find a good football song. But they had a great trouble with it, because most of the stuff they got was just straightforward chanting and hatred and, you know, that kind of thing. But it was one wonderful song called Where Are You Now, Joe Ackroyd? And it was written by, obviously written by a man who loved football. And the closest I've come to that, it was maybe a couple of years ago in Brechin. Actually, it happened in Forfar. I go to see Forfar Athletic. That's my local team. Some people think they're called Forfar Athletico. But that's very cruel. Anyway, I go to see Forfar, the Sky Greens. That's my team. And they were playing against Brechin City. And during the course of the match, the Brechin fans sang. It was an unremarkable tune, but the lyric went, "We cannot read, we cannot write, but that doesn't matter. We are Forfar Athletic fans, and we can drive a tractor." Isn't that nice? It's complimentary, you know. I drove through Brechin the other night. I was on my way to Montrose, and I just told the audience at Montrose that the Brechin had their Christmas lights up, and everybody laughed. And it reminded me of two women on a bus in Dundee on that subject. One of them said, "You notice I've got the lights up?" The other one says, "Yeah, we get the stuff that Freakum does not want." And then the first woman says, "That's right, and they say that Blair Gowrie's like fairyland." Because I remember thinking, Blair Gowrie's not like fairyland. Anyway, back to the song. I was listening to the radio one Saturday afternoon, and it was a game of football taking place in Glasgow between Aberdeen and Glasgow Celtic. And during the course of the match, the commentator said, "An amazing thing has just happened. A beautiful and healthy fox has just run onto the park." Did anybody see it on television? It was really bonny. It was a bonny thing to happen, but strange. And I wondered, why would such a wise creature put himself in such a precarious position? Because any game you get at Celtic Park, there are 60,000 people all howling. You don't expect to see wildlife. How cruel of you. Anyway, there he was. I began to wonder where he'd come from, because a couple of years before that, I met a fox in Mount Florida Station in Glasgow. And that's right beside Hampden Park. So I wondered, maybe he'd come from a wealthy part of Lanarkshire, or maybe a member of his family had been killed by the hunt, which was probably illegal at that time. And I thought maybe he'd tired of the rural way of life and moved into sophisticated Glasgow to stand outside chip shops and wear pointed shoes. But from wherever he came, I want to make a song in which the fox revises his opinion of mankind after watching Aberdeen play in Celtic. For those who know nothing at all about football, Aberdeen wear red costumes. The song is called Reynard in Paradise. Men can be graceful, this much I know. They say I'm aware of one big thing, but I'm not so slow. I used to live in a place where the people wore red, And they howled and screamed and blew their horns, and they wished my family'd never been born. I left the day that my brother went down, and headed in through the east side of town. I never heard a harsh word as I made my way, and people gave each other the time of day. I found this place in the middle of the night, when all was quiet and it felt just right. I made my way underground. I felt safe and I felt sound. And stood round the field and they spoke about the game. One at a time they made their way, and the lights came on, it was bright as day. And there on the field, to my surprise, right in front of my very eyes, people in red had come to town, but they had no horses and there were no hounds. And they began to dance, and I had an old man sing. And there on the field, what appeared to be a working model of the one big thing. They could dance and sing, a working model of the one big thing. Men can be graceful, this much I know. Thank you very much. Another song on the same subject. Some years ago, I was asked by a man called Ralph Milne if I would make something to celebrate Hamish McAlpine's testimonial year. Hamish McAlpine was a wonderful goalkeeper who played for Dundee United. In fact, after his life was over, he played for Rothes, as far as I remember. But he was a great goalkeeper and a great entertainer, great character. And Hamish used to drive the manager mental. He would turn his back on the game and conduct the fans singing, stuff like that. But anyway, I couldn't find a way into this song. And then one fortunate night, I attended a football match at Tannadice Park, which is where Dundee United play, or as Peter Sissons pronounces it, Tannadice. And shouldn't that be Peter's sea-song? Anyway, he called it Tannadice one night. We found it very amusing and entertaining. Anyway, I went along to see Dundee United, who were playing against FC Monaco. And up in the stand was the beautiful Hollywood film star, Grace Kelly. She was among us. She was wearing a white turban, and she looked very beautiful indeed. But the white turban was a wee bit incongruous with it. There was an advertising hoarding in front of her which said, Taylor Brothers Co. I always wondered if anybody had got a good photograph of that. Anyway, that night I started writing this song. And it's called either Hamish or Grace. Grace Kelly's visit to Tanadice. Keeping out the wolves in his particular way, a smile and a wave, a miraculous save, they say. Out runs Hamish and the balls in Invergowrie Bay. Said hello, and did you miss him while his voice was gone? I remember that time it was an evening game, a European tie in the howling rain. Gus Foy pointed to the side of the goal and said, "There's Grace Kelly by Taylor Brothers Colin." Smiling when he hears, it's only a game. When lose or draw, you get home to your bed just the same. But Hamish stokes young man's dreams into a burning flame. Hamish stokes young man's dreams into a burning flame. Very much. I'm going to finish this first half with two related songs. The first of them is on the hilarious subject of divorce. I'm sure you've all had plenty of laughs out of that subject. I got a bit fed up with it. All my pals were all getting divorced around about the same time, roughly the same age too. They mostly had the same faults as well. Anyway, at that time I learned the procedure. When a couple are splitting up, the procedure seems to be, one of them tells you one side of the story. You are then invited to despise the other party. Can you do that in Fife? It's boring. But I am interested in the subject. So I wanted to write a song about a couple who are splitting up. And this particular couple are childless. They have no children, so it's not too tragic. But because they have no children, the most important thing they must do is divide their record collection. That's when the trouble starts. The song is called Beef Hearts and Bones. He gets the beef heart, she gets the stones. They're willing to fight through every court in the land for the hearts and bones. They split the Motown, and she sheds a tear all the way down, and he sings the same old song. If you think you're walking out that door with Loudon Wainwright, you're wrong. Baby, you're wrong. She gets the Beach Boys a little son. He finds it's hard to take with a daddy's car and the fun, fun, fun. He gets a Lou Reed, the Brenda Lee and the kind of blue. Oh, so blue. She said, I always meant to tell you how much I hate the way you breathe. He takes a deep breath and he sees inarticulate speech of the heart. And he sings the same old song. If you think you're walking out that door with Aretha Franklin, you're wrong. Baby, you're wrong. She gets the Mozart, he's made a list. He fights his corner for the ones he wants and the ones she's missed. She gets the Nielsen, he doesn't mind. It's scratched and he smiles because he knows it goes right through her favorite song. And she says, you can take this Streisand, I don't like her anyway. We are as alike as Gladys Knight and Doris Day. Gladys Knight and Doris Day. He gets the beef heart, she gets the Stones. They're willing to fight through every court in the land for the hearts and bones. They split the Motown, and she sheds a tear all the way down, and he sings the same old song. You think you're walking out that door with Elvis Presley, you're wrong. Baby, you're wrong. You've always been wrong. Dum 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 dummy-doo-ah, dearest darling. Thank you very much. I found myself recently, because of the fact that I've always blamed the man in that song for the trouble between the couple, which is just daft, really, because they don't exist. They're a fictitious couple. But for some reason, I've always blamed him. Even to the point of, recently, I was wondering how he was getting on. Incredible, the things I think about. Yesterday I was wondering for about an hour and a half whether it's possible to get unadulterated adultery. It's too long to stand on such things, isn't it? Anyway, I thought, if he did exist, this man, he probably was the kind of fellow who would place an advertisement in a newspaper in order to get another woman after he'd split up with his wife. You know these columns you get in the paper called Perfect Partners or Cupid's stunts. You know the kind of thing. You have lonely people in Fife, yes? Okay, well, in Dundee we have lonely people and have these columns in the newspapers. And the columns are full of descriptions of these people who have the ability to describe themselves in 18 words or less. Now, I think that anybody who can do that is dangerous. So I see big long lists of dangerous people looking for each other. And you don't get to see the interesting bit. You don't get to see what happens when they meet, which is a pity, I think. And it helps if you know all the jargon, you know the terminology. WLTM, would like to meet. GSOH, good sense of humour. NS, nasty sadist. You know the kind of thing? The song is called She Said, He Said. She said, tall and thrifty with a passionate streak. He's a gambling midget with 2 left feet. You wouldn't notice when he came up the street if it wasn't for the hairpiece. And he said, slim and solvent with a house of her own. And could she send a picture of that happy home? Was there any way of proving that her teeth were her own? Without a one-to-one, she said she's looking for a non-smoking man. His face is pasty and his fingers are tan. He's just emerging from a driving ban. And the word they used was careless. She is a spirit of the Virgo sign, who lists her weaknesses as food and wine. He's been in prison for an awful long time. He's a really hot potato. She claims she's 30 and she's eager to please. She wants to show a side of her that nobody sees. He's nearly 60 with a skin disease. He won't be seen without his raincoat to pass the time while she awaits a reply. She's in the kitchen with a look in her eye which says ETKIAB as she fondly strokes her bread knife. They get together and all hell breaks out. She starts to scream and he begins to shout. You said curvaceous when you should have said stout. She said, why don't you shut your bus? They're both obnoxious and it's true she's white. They've got more faults between them than 2 humans can hide. Briefly they wonder if there may be more inside. And they both think, nah. You do know ETKIAB, do you know that one? Keep an eye out for that. That's enjoys drowning kittens in a bucket.